I absolutely fell in love with the sport. I fell in love with my teammates, with my coaches, and I really think that the past 4 to 5 years of my life have been formed and shaped by my identity as a student athlete on Harvard's rowing team.
Meimei just
Okay.
graduated from Harvard University and has been traveling all over Europe and Asia this past summer and is currently in Taiwan teaching about health and fitness at a leadership conference. Meimei studied environmental science and government and received a fellowship to do research on clean energy policy in Norway next year. And so Meimei was also recruited for the cross-country and track teams at Harvard, but due to injury could not compete. Instead of quitting sports altogether, she chose to join another sport compatible with her injuries and walked into the rowing team her second year. So rowing has become a very important and formative part of her life, and she hopes to continue to do it in Norway. And so maybe a little bit more about Meimei is that she loves all sports and was pushed to excel in athletics from a young age by nature of playing and competing with her two older brothers, Shane and Jake, and her two parents who are passionate health and fitness ambassadors. Welcome, Meimei. How are you today?
Thanks, Luigi, and thanks, Roz. Thanks so much for inviting me on the show. I'm excited to be here.
So today, Meimei is going to tell us a little bit about what it's like to be a student athlete who recently graduated and has had the opportunity to manage her life, right? To balance her life between her studies, sports, social life, and being Meimei. So we just want to take a look at that, and maybe we could get some tips overall on how to lead the life as an athlete student. So maybe first question is, can you share a bit about your personal journey as a student athlete and how you got involved in your sport specifically?
Yes, absolutely. Thanks for the question. I think my journey to my place as a rowing athlete at Harvard was a little bit long. It was a zigzag from one sport to another. I started out playing many different sports. As Luigi, you had mentioned, I grew up in a family with two older brothers and two parents who are very passionate about health and fitness and sports as well. In my childhood, I grew up playing lots of sports, and in high school, I went into competitive running, and it became my dream to become a competitive runner. I was competing at the international level, and was really it was a dream of mine that I had been speaking about for a long time, actually, to go to the Olympics for running. But over the span of a few years, after some international competitions, I incurred over 8 stress fractures. It was a constant injury cycle. And by the end of my first year after being recruited to Harvard for running, it had become clear that it was continuing to try to run was not going to be a compatible option for my body. So I had to take a step back from running. It was one of the hardest things I'd ever done because as I had said, it was really a dream of mine to go to the Olympics. And so I was just gonna take a step back and maybe take up some spinning classes and do some weightlifting. But a friend of mine really encouraged me to take a look at rowing. So it's interesting that how my life has been formed these past 4 to 5 years almost comes down to this one friend and this one conversation that I had with him about just giving it a go. Why not trying out this other sport? I'm so grateful for that conversation because I reached out to the rowing coach. I had a little bit of a tryout. My endurance from running transferred over to rowing very well. Learning the technique was a little bit of a learning curve, but I absolutely fell in love with the sport. I fell in love with my teammates, with my coaches, and I really think that the past 4 to 5 years of my life have been formed and shaped by my identity as a student athlete on Harvard's rowing team, as well as many other things, because there's more to me than just rowing. But that's a little bit about my journey to rowing.
That's beautiful. It sounds like you found a community. It's amazing.
Absolutely. I think something that's really important about being a student athlete is that it's such a rigorous lifestyle that if you don't have the relationships and the love for the people on your team, it's not sustainable. So that's something that I found with my sports. Yes.
So I know with a lot of people who do like a certain sport, it makes them feel something. So for me, when I did Muay Thai for a really short period of time, it was like a stress relief method to me. It made me feel like I was like at peace with myself. How does rowing make you feel?
Oh my goodness. I think so. Rowing, I think, takes us to another level beyond, maybe beyond what running took me to, because of course, there's like the biological response to getting physical activity of like the hormones release, the adrenaline, which gives you a natural high and this feeling of happiness, and then also it's a natural de-stressor as well. And then there's the component of socializing with your teammates that you create a very strong bond with. But and I think that's common among most sports. But with rowing, I think this almost goes a level deeper because, first of all, you're up at like 5 a.m. in the morning and you're on the water. So yes, getting up at 5 a.m. it's kind of an out of body experience because you don't always feel yourself at that time. And you get on the water and there's no one else on the water, or there's just a few other teams who are also practicing at that time. And it's either the sun is rising or there's mist surrounding you. So it can kind of be a mystical, magical experience on the water. And when you're rowing, you have to be perfectly in sync with every single person in the boat. So you can be in a 2-person boat, 4-person boat, or an 8-person boat. And there's a type of connection that is to put words to without just like showing you and having you experience it yourself. It's like you're connecting with the people all around you and with the nature, the water, the boat, the oars that you're pulling on while you're rowing, in a little bit of a surreal way. So it's definitely a de-stressor, but it's also a form of absolute pleasure and kind of like I don't know how else to describe this than like a heavenly, like out of body experience. So yeah, maybe throughout later in the podcast, I'll find better words to describe that. But
no, it totally makes sense, honestly. Like I feel the same way about every single sport that I've been included in. Like it's just, I think we're all so connected to like the sport that we're good at, and it makes us feel a certain way. And I totally understand what you're saying. Like it all makes sense.
Okay, I'm glad. It's weird to call it magical. Sometimes it's not magical at all, but sometimes it is. So yeah, I'm glad you understand. Yeah.
No, it's all about the balance, right? And I think it sounds like it's a good way to connect with your body, with your being, and so it's almost an expression of that, right? So this is it makes perfect sense. So I would think that between waking up so early in the morning and actually going into practice and maintaining a rigorous routine so that you can compete, I would imagine it's very important to learn how to manage your time. So what would you say are some unique challenges student athletes face when trying to balance the demands of school and their athletic commitments? And maybe we could take you as an example.
Yeah, absolutely. I think time management is something that I had to tackle very early on in my life, even before coming to college, as someone who was competing at a high level before college. And so it's been many years that I've been tackling this, and I'm still learning. I think that time management is something that I'll continue to learn throughout my life. But it's learning how to prioritize and how to cut out things that aren't giving you back energy in your life. I like using the analogy of what is giving you energy and what's taking energy from you. And I mean more so like mentally. So of course sports are taking energy from you physically, but if something is a constant drain on your mind and your body, then that needs to go on the list of things that need to be cut out from your life. And or just like less prioritized. So that's one note on prioritizing your time. I think so. One thing that I do every single day is I make lists. So I have this notebook with me that I carry around with me everywhere. And whenever I have a thought or an email comes in and it gives me another task that I have to do or a phone call, and I have to connect these two people or write a LinkedIn post or whatever it is, I jot it down on my notebook. And so I'm constantly keeping track of the things that I have to do. And so it doesn't get overwhelming. The lists also help me break things down into bite-sized pieces. Otherwise, I find that sometimes I'm just sitting on my desk and there's so many things to do that it's overwhelming that I feel paralyzed and I just go on my phone and I scroll. And that's like the least helpful thing that you can possibly do. So making lists absolutely has very much helped me in my time management. I think that another thing that I've learned is that throughout days, for myself, I'm sure for most people as well, there are often these awkward 20-minute chunks in between things where I think it's really easy to let these 20-minute time chunks just pass you by as you scroll on Instagram or answer texts or use whatever kind of social media, or you just sit there and do whatever, play video games even. But those 20-minute time chunks come very often and add up. You can really get a lot done in 20 minutes, especially if you get in the habit of making the most of that. And that's making lists also help you with that so that you can look to your list whenever you have a time chunk available and say, okay, I'm going to start tackling this big thing. Let's see how much I can get in 20 minutes, or this small task. I'll write this email really quickly in 20 minutes. So there's one part of time management. I think another thing that I've dealt with as a student athlete has been what millennials call these days FOMO, so fear of missing out. This is something that comes from just having such a packed schedule all the time, and being so constrained. You're either running from practice to class to the cafeteria because I'm constantly eating, or at night, my roommates, who I roomed with non-athletes, are staying up chatting because they don't have a care in the world of what time they wake up in the morning. And I have to be in bed so I can wake up at 5 a.m. To go to practice. So FOMO was something that I was constantly grappling with especially in college, in a very, very social environment. So how to deal with FOMO? You just got to prioritize, and at the end of the day, it kind of is like practice makes perfect. In freshman year, FOMO absolutely ran my life, but it was also a constant drain because I was doing things that I didn't have time for, and I wasn't sleeping enough, and that definitely took a toll on my mental and physical energy. So you have to figure out what makes you happy and what your absolute needs are. My needs are 8 hours of sleep a night. So I have to make sure that I give up other things in order to get my 8 hours of sleep.
It's all about energy. Absolutely. It's again, cutting out what doesn't make sense. Now it makes perfect sense. So you've talked about, being an athlete and also the social life, right? You've given some great techniques. What about the student aspect? What about the academics? How have you utilized making lists, time management, right? I don't want to say rationalizing yourself out of FOMO, but balancing what to have FOMO on and whatnot, right? How did you balance your classes with having the social life and also having to wake up 5 o'clock in the morning to go rowing?
Absolutely. So I think that like one answer that I'll keep coming back to is prioritizing things. And I guess one way that I would balance my academics with my athletics and social life is the night before I would look at my schedule and again make lists of when are my tests, when is certain homework assignments due, and that will help me keep track and manage my time as to when I need to block out more time to focus on those academics. At Harvard, Google Calendar, GCals are used frequently. And if you look at any Harvard students, GCals, it's overwhelming and toxic thing to do. So actually, I would never recommend you to do this. But you'll see people will color code each task that they have to get done throughout the day, whether it's social, club related, athletics, school, which class it's related to, and block out like every minute of every day of what you're going to be doing. And unfortunately, in a very high stress, high stakes life, that's kind of what you have to do. It's hard to live a relaxed life where you get to just chill and be spontaneous with your friends. And I definitely throughout the years I blocked out time to be spontaneous, but that was something that was learned and it didn't come easily. So I think that like just keeping track of the different factors that I had to balance in life and making sure that I would block out time to tackle my homework assignments and my tests and my classes. And what was really important to me as well was meeting with my professors and developing relationships with my professors. So class times would always run much longer because I would ask questions or stay after or go to office hours. And that was important to me because that's where I got most out of my classes. So my priorities, social life had to take a hit sometimes, unfortunately. But I do think that I had a very, by the end, it takes some trial and error. I think that although social life sometimes takes a hit, I am socializing while I'm doing athletics. I'm socializing while I group study with people. So there are different ways to like multitask the different aspects of your life as well. And then I think that because I got better and better at time management, I had more and more social time.
Makes perfect sense.
I just want to make it clear to the audience that being a student athlete doesn't mean not having a social life. It's a matter of time management.
Absolutely. I think both being an athlete and a student individually means that you have to know how to socialize, right? Because I think to your point, right, when you're in a team, it's important to know how to communicate to others. When you're in class, it's important to know how to not just talk to your peers, but also to your professor in order to really build that community, that support system. So that you can actually reach your endeavors. And so Roz and we throughout our partnership, we continuously talk about the importance of having a strong support system. What do you think, Roz?
Yeah, so like the thing that keeps me going the most is just having like my support system at the finish line, just like waiting for me there, just knowing that I have people who are like rooting for me and cheering for me. How does having a strong support system mean to you? Like, what does it mean to you? And how important is it for you to have coaches that support you, teachers, family?
Absolutely. Well, Roz, I think you hit the nail on the head there when you were saying that having a support system is really important. I mentioned earlier that the relationships in your life whether it be in your athletics or in a non-athletic career, are like maybe the most important thing in one's life, because your academics aren't necessarily always going to be there for you, but who will be there for you? The good friends and family, hopefully, like a good support system, not only for the highs to celebrate the things that you achieve in life, but the time that you need them most is when things are difficult. And everyone encounters challenges in life, whether it be in athletics or not athletics, once again. So support system, very, very important. For me, I am surrounded by my teammates many hours a day, and my coaches and my like non-varsity athlete roommates. And I found a need of support in every single one of these communities. These communities are different aspects of my life, and like one person is not enough. Life is too difficult to just have one. So finding community and support in every aspect of life, I think, is what has gotten me where I am today. Truly, because I feel like I'm very happy. I feel like I am very happy with where I'm at right now. And that's not because necessarily what I have done for myself. It's because of the people around me who have lifted me up and supported me through difficult times, or even encouraged me in times that were going really well. So the people, the relationships, the community, the family, the friends, the professors, the teammates, the coaches, those are all the people who have really made my life very special. So yeah.
Yeah, I totally understand the need for a support system. Sometimes it's just there's a lot going on in your life and you're doing so much, and just like people cheering you on, or just knowing that someone's there for you to help you out through it, is just like a really comforting feeling. And I know how important it is to have a support system, but it's also really important to have a role model, and it's usually within our support system. So Meimei, who is your role model that you look up to?
So I think I can't give you one answer to that. I have many, many role models. So similar to my answer, who is in my support system, I have people who inspire me in every single community that I am involved in. I think that I'm learning from each and every one of my teammates every single day about leadership and time management, how to take life not so seriously sometimes, or discipline, and how to take life seriously in other times. And for example, this may cross over with the last question and this question. I in my last season in 2022, I had been in one boat all season, and we'd been winning or getting first or second, and it was really, really exciting season. And then near the end of the season, we were doing some seat races. So seat racing in rowing is when you're competing for your seat in the boat, and you'll go down the course alongside another boat. So for me, it was a 4-person boat against a 4-person boat, and then you'll swap seats and you'll see who made the boats go faster. And I lost my seat race. So I had worked tirelessly in that boat. It was I was the underdog making it into that boat at the start of the season. So it was a huge accomplishment and really exciting for me to be in that boat all season. And then all of a sudden, for national championships, I was no longer in that season in that boat. That took a huge hit on my ego, on my mental health in the moment. And it was a matter of many people in my life who stepped up, many role models, many people who are very wise and who were a part of my support system, and people who just had more of a bird's eye view perspective on the situation than myself, who helped me get back up and be a good teammate, encourage my teammate who made the boat move faster, and have fun with it. So of course it was difficult, but it was the people around me who were also paving the way, helping to show me how to handle that situation in the best way. And in all the other aspects that we've been talking about how hard it is to handle and balance your time with school and with athletics, and with social and extracurriculars. On my team, each individual is also doing the same and winning awards in their academics and in athletics, and really excelling in many areas. So that's always pushing me to be a better version of myself and to excel in different areas, whether it be academics, athletics, or just, even, again, not taking life so seriously and having a little bit more of a balanced social life when balancing all those other things. I think that I would be remiss to not mention my family members. My mom and dad, John and Donna Weston, are very inspirational figures for myself. They have just way too much wisdom for one human being, or for each individual that they are. And my mom is a fierce, independent woman, and I think that it's really important to have, as a female athlete, it's really important to have competitive, but also kind and loving and strong, independent women figures in my life. So I'm very privileged to be surrounded by so many inspirational women, as well as some very strong and inspirational men in my life, such as my dad and my brothers, and many of my good friends at school.
No, thank you so much for sharing so much. This is amazing. Like I'm sitting here and thinking it all in. I'm thinking, okay, don't grab a notepad, don't write. We're talking, we're having a conversation. I'm ready to make a list for myself.
I'm glad.
We've also had the pleasure of meeting both your parents, more specifically with your dad. So he's a wonderful individual. Always at some point I always end up smiling, because to your point about the wisdom and just knowing how to interact, I can definitely see these amazing attributes, which are very important in general to see in the communities that you align yourself with, that you find yourself with. So maybe now that we've looked a little bit at the community, maybe to bring it home, to really bring us home to a closing, how do you think universities, or more specifically in your case, Harvard, provided the necessary resources for student athletes to get the extra help that they need with studying or mental health, right? Because again, your immediate community, the people that you find, they can provide all of that. But we all know that also, depending on the environment that you're in, sometimes some of these resources are available, or maybe they're not available. Or if they are available, it might be to some degree, right? So how do you find that your own university experience, your own university provided these resources for you? Again, resources with helping to study, and also with mental health, and really keeping everything balanced.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think that being at Harvard, I have been very lucky to have access to so many resources. So specifically as an athlete, some things that I've had access to are extended dining hall hours, so for late practices, or maybe just because I also just eat more than the average individual, so I need to go for an extra meal at the end of the day. And we have access to sports medicine, so trainers who will take care of us when something's not feeling right with the body, so that we can be at peak performance. And we also have, all students have access to mental health advisors at the school. And there's also lots of different, I guess, barriers to make sure that each student is doing what they need to do to succeed at the school. So if something's going wrong, you have what we call a tutor. So an adult who lives on the same floor as you, who is in charge of just taking care of the day-to-day in case there's an emergency. There's many adults within your house, your building, but you have your specific tutor. And then if you need help beyond that, there's the house resident dean. You have academic dean. You have, again, your mental health advisor. So there's many different like safety nets that make sure that you're doing well. At least you're not getting lost between the cracks of the very busy, cutthroat environment that Harvard and university in general is. I will also say that sure, there's all these resources available, but they're not necessarily sufficient in terms of providing each individual what they need on the day-to-day, especially when it comes to mental health. I think that going back to your earlier questions, this is why support systems are so incredibly important, because you need someone, or you need many people in your life who are close enough to you that you can open up about anything and who you have easy access to. Maybe on the daily, maybe on the weekly, depends on what phase of life you're going through. Family members who are mentors, people who have wisdom to help you through challenging situations. So universities, like Harvard specifically, I can't speak, but I know that all universities as well provide resources for making sure that you are getting some help in studying or mental health or medical care, whatever it is. But it's not going to be enough for any individual. So one of the expectations there is that you are an adult as you enter college, and you are responsible for to kind of take care of yourself, and the resources are there if you need it. But for the most part, you need to figure out how you're going to not fail that test. And again, like Harvard, if you fail a test, you'll meet with someone, a resident dean. But if you don't pick yourself back up and do the studying yourself, you're going to fail it again. So there are resources, but you need to learn your lesson from your failures and from the people around you to lead a good life, a happy life yourself. Does that answer your question? Are you looking for something?
I love it. I love it. All I'm hearing is intentionality, and that makes a lot of sense, right? I think to your point, right? Safety nets are there to catch you, but a lot of the work is done with you, right? Like it's not, things are not being done for you. You're doing it yourself, and you're provided with support. So intentionality that's what I'm hearing. We're hearing that it's important to be intentional, and through being intentional, you are proactive. Sometimes that's not enough, and that's where all of these resources can come into support.
Absolutely. Yes.
Here you have it, folks. Here you have it, folks. Here you have it. Meimei, thank you so much for coming in and sharing all of these wisdom. I know that Roz was just saying thank you for something. Roz,
I was saying thank you, and it's such a privilege to just have this conversation with you and get so much input on, someone who has actually been through it all, everything, running, rowing. Meimei can really do it all. But thank you so much for tuning into this episode with your host, Roz and Luigi. And make sure to check out our Instagram at letsmovecanada for the latest updates. And don't forget to head over to our website, chfi.fit, to learn more about our mission. And don't hesitate to DM us if you're interested in being a guest on Let's Move Canada. But that's it for this episode, and we'll see you next time.
Take care,
Thanks so much,
everyone.
Luigi and Roz.